Smita Jayapataka Swami Namini Namo Acharya Padani Tagripatani Kodapada Damade Nagatamapadi Namo Shvada Krishna Stavitale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nami Namaste Saraswati Deva Gautavani Charini Vishesha Sunyavadi Pashatya Deshatarani Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Dvaita Gadadra Shasadi Gauratrunda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, welcome to all devotees for reading mm, chapter number 12, Knife Attack. Maya Devi, or the personification of material nature, is said to bow with greater respect before accomplished devotee. She is anxious to glorify their Herculean efforts to bring spirituality to material world. But sometimes she tries to obstruct them, to to get in their way, to undo their priceless endeavor. This is this is because her service to the Lord is counterintuitive, very different from that of most devotees. It is her mandate to tighten the grip of worldly attachment, to deepen illusion, and to thus keep people in the material world according to their sublime design. Aropas of this Maya Devi sometimes attempt to disrupt the work of spirituality, advanced soul. Of course, the life of advanced souls, Krishna himself plays a role. And so, while from one perspective it might seem that hampering their work comes from the realm of Maya Devi, it very much involves Krishna personal touch well. How do we know when it is Maya and when it is Krishna? Many souls are actually brought close Krishna through screening reverse. When Maya tries to hinder a great soul or take him her from our vision altogether, it often just increases our disease to assist their mission and even enhance our love for them. Thus, they expect that enriches our spiritual life is Krishna. The part that does not is Maya. When it comes to great souls, it is often a combination of the two, with Krishna hand front and center. The greatest example of this was Srila Prabhupada. When he performed his pastimes of leaving this mortal world in 1977, the devotees were overcome with deep affection even more than when he was well, willing to do anything to keep his association. So when an advanced soul has difficult or worse still leaves his body behind, it may to some extent be the working of the material energy or Krishna working material energy, but it can also serve the purpose of enlarging his followers' commitment and the blossoming of the devotional service. Such can be seen in the story of Jayapataka Swami. There was both a murder attempt in Spain and a stroke that almost took his life. In both these unfortunate circumstances, one can certainly see the hand of Maya trying to obstruct his mission. But one can also see Krishna because devotees surrounding him at these pivotal times becomes more enthusiastic to assist him and thereby develop their Krishna consciousness. His hardship depend the devotee's love for him. All uh, uh, torments of this world can be used in two ways, positively and negatively. Indeed, Prabhupada often said that a knife would be used in a delicate operation to save a person's life, or it could be used criminally to murder someone. Interestingly, a knife was in fact used in an attempt to kill Jayapataka Swami, but the attempt failed, and in the end, it served to deepen his devotees' love for him. Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you. For devotees who would like to read can raise your hands.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, Prabhu. Please read my Prabhu. Please go ahead.
Krishna. Stabbing in Madrid. While Nicereus may question why Krishna allowed his devotee to sometimes be stricken in unfortunate ways, it becomes clear that such occurrences not only have positive outcomes as discussed above, but that numerous instances of this are prepared throughout Vaishnava history. A few examples may be in order. In the Mahabharata, Duryodhana made several assassination attempts upon the lives of the Pandavas. In the story of Prahlad Maharaja, his father tried to kill him in numerous ways. Jagai and Madai viciously attacked the Nityananda Prabhu. Haridasa Thakura has beaten in 22 marketplaces, almost to the point of death. Attempts are famously made on the lives of Ramanuja, Bhakti Vinoda, and Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati. Even Jesus Christ was crucified. The material world is a dangerous place, and sometimes this danger is foisted upon great souls as well, if always with a higher plan. Such a plan unfolded in 1989, just 2 days after Jayapataka Swami had visited the ISKCON farm in Behura, Behuga, a municipality located in the province of Guadalajara, Spain. Spain. On a crisp Sunday morning in the fall, Jayapataka Swami was driven to the airport with two devotees assistants, Yedu Dasa and let's see that Jnana Agni Dasa to catch an 11:30 flight from Madrid to Barcelona. His plan was to give the Sunday evening lecture in the well-attended ISKCON temple of Catalonia. But Krishna had other plans. As he was standing at the check-in counter to get his boarding pass, without warning, someone approached him from behind. Within moments, his head was jerked backward as he felt the cold steel of a sharp blade pushed up against his skin. The knife tore apart the left side of his cervical area with a clean cut from his neck to his throat. The assistant, who had been a guest at the ISKCON farms and had even seen Jayapataka there, immediately ran to escape capture. He was chased by Yadu Dasa and one of the ISKCON's French congregational members, several of whom had also come to the airport to see Swami off. After receiving the potentially fatal las, laceration, Maharaja stumbled about 30 or 40 feet and then sat down on the floor, dazed and bewildered, wrapping in his sannyasi top around the lengthy cut area to stop the bleeding. He soon made his way to a nearby exit with the help of a police officer. By the time airport medics were apprised of what had happened, and he was taken to the first aid center. Stabilizing his condition and making sure he was able to travel, an ambulance then took him to Madrid's La Plaza General Hospital. Documenting the attack, Jayapataka Swami writes, I saw a flash of shiny metal and could feel cold steel touching my neck. I saw the angry, mad face of the old man star, staring me in the face. At first, I thought he was strangling me with a steel cable. But I tried to speak and couldn't. As air and blood came gushing from my windpipe. I took I took at my hand and saw it was covered with blood. I felt my neck and found it was sliced open from one under my left ear up to my chin. Then I knew I had been cut. I turned around and saw the assistant running away through the airport carrying a knife in his hand. He was being chased by Yedudasa and one of the French visitors. I was dazed and didn't know what to do. I was chanting in my mind and I walked stumbling about 30 to 40 feet to one side until I realized I didn't know where I was going. I decided to just sit down and be calm. I couldn't stop the bleeding. I was covered with blood. I wrapped my sannyasi top piece around the wound and realized that I could very easily die from this wound. I began to offer obeisances in my mind to Srila Prabhupada, the previous acharyas, Sri Radha Madhava and Sri Nitai Gaura. I could see my life passing before me. I realized I had accepted many qualified disciples in the course of preaching who later broke the regulative principles. I had committed many offenses to the Vaishnava devotee of ISKCON, and certainly prior to being a devotee, I had committed unlimited sinful acts. Certainly, I deserved to be violently killed many times over for all my offenses. I felt that whatever Lord Krishna wanted to do was surely just and proper. Yet I felt anxiety that I had not been able to complete the instructions that Srila Prabhupada gave me about developing Sri Dham Mayapur, the master plan and the big temple Vedic planetarium. Nor had I been able to complete the many projects in different temples in my zone for expanding the preaching. Here he was given a glimpse into the mood of a Vaishnava, especially during a calamitous moment. If death is imminent, he draws his mind to his worshipable deities, focusing his consciousness to the divine. To the divine. This way, he will go to the Lord at the time of his departure. As a result, a true humility, he also thinks about the offenses he may have committed and sinful acts from his previous life. Although he has exhibited saintly behavior for a bulk of his time in this world, he focuses instead of instead of mishaps he may have endured or compromised situations from his past. He is grateful for any transgressions. Ultimately, however, he meditates on his service. Was he leaving his word without having completed it? Jabadaga Swami knew well that his master had mandated the planetarium in Mayapur, and his main meditation was regret in not having finished it. No, he must stay. He cannot yet leave. He must complete the Mayapur project on behalf of Srila Prabhupada. Jabadaga Swami remembers what transpired immediately after his assault. After his assault, at the time, Jnana Agnidasa came to my side and told me to chant and wait as he was calling for an ambulance. For an ambulance in front of me, I could see people, ladies looking at me and then screaming and running in fear. The French girl, folk, and accordion, acronian for Friends of Lord Krishna member came close to me, but when she saw the blood and wound, she screamed and held her hands to her face in horror. Whatever was happening seemed almost like a dream as I was going deeper into myself, praying and trying to prepare myself spiritually to leave my body, if that was Lord Krishna's desire. I couldn't chant or speak out loud. So I was mentally chanting and praying. I thought to lie down, but blood started pouring into my windpipe and choking me. So I decided to stay sitting up. Someone pushed the luggage cart behind my bag to help support me sitting. As I was praying, I looked down and saw my right thumb and forefinger were cut and bleeding also. I couldn't remember how that happened. My hand must have gone to my neck and been cut by the knife. After about 15 to 20 minutes, although it seemed like an even longer period of time, a policeman came with Jnana Agni and told me to come with him. He monitored me with his hand to follow him. I don't know what he was thinking, but I couldn't stand up on my own. Then he and the devotee helped me to my feet, and I walked with them to the nearest airport exit. We came out onto the street at the front outside of the departure section. The policeman told me to walk with him to his police car as still no ambulance had come. He said he would personally take me to the hospital in the police car. His car was about 100 meters away. I motioned that I couldn't make it and was just standing on the curbside, continuing chanting in my mind. When the policeman drove up in his little Fiat, an ambulance also arrived simultaneously. I opted for the ambulance. They told me to get up into the ambulance, get up into the ambulance. My head was spinning from loss of blood, but somehow I climbed up into the bike. We drove to a first aid center in some other section of the airport. They had me climb down and walk into the doctor's room and lie down on the examination table. The doctor seemed at a loss for what to do. Then he grabbed a whole massive roll of gauze and wrapped it around my neck. Again, I walked to the ambulance, but this time I had no strength left to climb up. Finally, they lowered the stretcher and had me sit on it and lifted me into the ambulance. We sirens, went off with the sirens, but sometimes cars wouldn't move over right way, and we got delayed. I just kept praying and chanting in my mind. Finally, we reached La Paz General Hospital, the biggest government hospital in Madrid. Of course, at that moment, I didn't know what hospital we had reached. They rolled me off into the emergency ward. Once in the hospital room, his entire head was swollen and bandaged with ECG suction cups throughout his body to monitor heart activity. Intravenous drips supplied antibiotics and glucose through his veins, while plastic tubes dominated his nose and other parts of his body. His visage was frightening. He was in pain, and there were no devotees in the immediate area to give him association. Then the latter problem would be alleviated when the temple president of ISKCON, Brihuga Jayadeva Dasa, came to check on him. Jayadeva informed him of the magnitude of the situation. He informed the Swami that there was a 24-hour police guard posted in his door. No one could enter if not cleared by the Swami. Jayadeva informed me. Remembers Jayapataka that all the newspapers had covered the incident locally and that international news coverage had also gone out. Not being able to speak, my only means of communication was to write in my imperfect Spanish, since few of the hospital understood English. I told him that what they did locally was their responsibility, although I thought they should give a release correcting the misinformation already given. At least internationally, I thought they should give a release explaining what really happened. It was very disturbing. Continued the Swami. The false news had been published that an ISKCON devotee had attacked me. The temple president confirmed that Santiago, assailant wasn't a devotee, but only a casual visitor who had been recently attending a summer training course at the farm. I asked for other details. He reported that not only the attacker, but all the devotees at the airport had been arrested. When Santiago was running away in the airport, being chased by two devotees, he threw his knife at Yedudasa, who picked it up and continued the chase. Then Santiago pulled out another knife from his pants and threw it too. The French folk member picked it up and ran. Santiago pulled out a third knife and made some surface cuts on his body and ran to the police. He accused the devotees of having attacked him and trying to kill him. The police saw two Hare Krishna devotees carrying knives in their hands, as well as Santiago with a knife. They arrested everyone. The police soon discovered that Santiago had had a long history of serious psychological problems and had even been in the asylum for a two-year period. The devotee were released and the culprit was caught. Meanwhile, Jayapataka Swami in the hospital in critical condition, but after some days in intensive care, he was told that he was no longer in danger and could be relocated to a normal hospital ward for postoperative uh, postoperative treatment. Soon devotees came from various quarters, which gave Jayapataka Swami much needed solace. Almost a week after the attack, he says, two of my disciples arrived from Malaysia. The national vice president, Vrindavana Chandradasa, and the Kuala Lumpur temple president and national secretary, Simheshwara Dasa, followed by Prema Vikasa Dasa Brahmachari from the Mayapur Gurukula, who had been visiting Zurich. Also, Chudamani Dasi came from London and the Bangalore Hyderabad temple president Madhu Pandita Dasa arrived from India. He was especially pleased when his leading God brothers who were members of ISKCON's governing body committee, GBC, came to see him. Tamala Krishna Goswami and Shivarama Swami came on Radhashtami Day, which happened to be the 19th anniversary of Srila Prabhupada giving me the sannyasa order of life in Calcutta, India. By Krishna's arrangement, just 1 hour before these God brothers arrived that day by my tracheostomy tube was changed for one that allowed me to speak. I cannot say enough how wonderful it was to have associated with my GBC God brothers, Tamala Krishna Goswami and Shivarama Swami gave me good advice on behalf of my GBC body, and we decided that I should not return to India until I was fully healed and over the and over the danger of infection. We had a kirtana and discussed the pastimes of Srila Prabhupada. Their Lords Sri Sri Nidai Gauranga, the personal deities of Shivarama Swami, also came. The personal deities of Shivarama Swami also came to my hospital room and allowed me to worship them and gave me their transcendental darshana. It was almost more mercy than I could handle. I couldn't help but cry at the causeless mercy of the Vaishnavas and Sri Sri Nitai Gauranga. Srinivasa Swami kindly read from Chaitanya Charitamrita Andhya Leela on Radhashtami. Tamala Krishna Goswami informed me how devotees from all over the world had simultaneously responded with prayer and concern when they heard of my attack and condition, for which I was deeply grateful and indebted. How Bhakti Charya Swami had also called them. It demonstrated to me how ISKCON is one transcendental body, and even if one hurts the smallest toe, the whole body is conscious of it. I realized that although I am a most insignificant member of ISKCON, devotees were so kind that they responded with their kindness and mercy. Japadaga Swami simplicity and humility are seen here in abundance. He was generously touched that senior God brothers would come visit him. He saw himself as unworthy of their attention, even though he, like them, was clearly one of the movement's most significant leaders. Some days later, the hospital staff supplied a television. Naturally, Jayapataka Swami had no use for it, but one night he thought to watch the news to see if his attempted murder was being covered. Sure enough, when the evening national news was turned on for him, the announcer's lead statement came through loud and clear. After the near fatal attack at Madrid International Airport on Jayapataka Swami, an international leader of the Hare Krishna movement and one of the maximum authorities of the Hare Krishna movement in Latin America, many questions about dangerous cults have been brought to light. Stay tuned after the evening news for a news special on dangerous cults, says Jayapataka Swami. It was certainly Lord Krishna's arrangement that we had just turned on the news. We stayed tuned and tapped the programs on a cassette player. We found to our disgust that a member of the Spanish House of Representatives Parliament and an anti-cult spokesman gave 30 minutes of unbridled anti-cult and especially anti-Hare Krishna propaganda of the movement while and inflammatory type. They even compared us with satanic groups. The congresswoman categorically stated that Hare Krishna and other dangerous cults simply pushed forward a false philosophy to fool and cheat the public, but the real purpose was to collect money through the brainwashed followers for the Swamis and leaders who controlled them. They went on and on with their garbage. They demanded that Hare Krishna religious status in Spain be re-evaluated and cancelled, and many other things. It was election time in Spain, and the congresswoman was running on an anti-cult election platform. We could see that the anti-cult movement in Spain was very powerful, but the local devotee hadn't even issued a press release to date in spite of so much local publicity. I wrote a message to the two visiting GBCs and begged them to arrange a press conference. It seemed obvious that directly or indirectly, the maniac who attacked me was influenced by the anti-cult movement, or at least by its propaganda. This type of responsible propaganda, which was nearly fatal for me, had to be stopped to protect all Hare Krishna devotees in Spain and in Europe, as it could easily spill over to other countries in the European community. Paratmadasa, the Spanish PA director, was located just in time, and Tamala Krishna Goswami and Sri Shivarama Swami gave Paratma some instructions. It was decided to arrange a press conference in the hospital room. Thus, I would be able to speak from my hospital bed to the press, which would have special dramatic effect. Then Paratma started to arrange for a press conference and prepared to brief for the media and newspapers.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu. I think now devotees, many devotees have raised the hand. So
Okay.
we will, yeah, thank you very much, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Next,
Raj ki
Jai.
Ki.
Now,
thank you for giving me the opportunity to read.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. On the day of the press conference, the temple president of the Brihuica farm, the temple president of Barcelona, and the regional secretary of Spain, a Hindu leader from Ceuta of Spain, the Spanish ISKCON PA director, a favorite mother of a devotee, and Indian devotee representatives from Malaysia and India were all present to speak at the press conference. I still had the tube in my nose for direct feeding into the stomach, but somehow I was able to answer the questions in spite of the plastic hanging from my face. Now, the Spanish PA director had a massive brief ready to give to each press representative who had come. Actually, there was such a keen interest that the hospital room filled up so quickly that I couldn't hold all the news and media representatives at one time. Therefore, it had to be filled twice with two separate presentations of the press conference. The attendees include Reuters, the largest magazine in Spain, national radio, local newspapers, and the hospital's public affairs director and staff. The coverage came out favorable to the Hare Krishna movement and against the anti-cult movement's destructive propaganda. It was also effectively announced that the attempted murderer was not a member of ISKCON. Of course, the hospital medical staff was upset over the crowds in the hospital room, but they had to sacrifice a little for the pleasure of Lord Krishna. Thus, Jayapataka Swami's unfortunate near-death incident had a positive effect even while he was still in the hospital. From this one program, it became clear throughout Spain and beyond that Hare Krishna movement was not a cult, that the assailant was not a devotee, and that ISKCON represented a legitimate form of spirituality. Jayapataka Swami was naturally pleased. Moreover, devotees from all over the world were sending telegrams to the hospital in Madrid wishing him well. They offered numerous prayers for his quick recovery and expressed a deep affection for him. The Reuters correspondent had wanted to see who sent messages and was impressed to see messages from New Zealand, Brazil, China, New York, Italy, Ecuador, India, Malaysia, Melbourne, Australia, England, Atlanta, Bahrain, Tokyo, and so on. Jayapataka Maharaj remembers that time fondly. The nurses on my floor came and told me, phone calls are coming all over the world. They had never had such experience in their ward, possibly never in the hospital. This may have caused some of the staff and police guards to treat me with some respect, as they knew I must be someone important, judging my international concern and the press coverage. I was emotional like a child for the next week or so. And whenever a new message would come, I would feel very grateful for the costless kindness of the devotees and often could not contain my tears. Murder, murder attempt. Summing up, the doctors and nurses in Madrid felt it uncanny that Jayapataka Swami recovered so quickly. Loss of blood, trauma to the body, transfusion, major operations, and so on. And he just kept getting better and better at a rapid pace. It was enough to give the hospital staff faith in Krishna. The doctors who operated on me, says Jayapataka Swami, informed me that my external jugular vein and thyroid artery had been cut. These are important structures, and this injury alone is not normally enough for one to bleed to death in a short time. In many ways, they said it was a miracle that I was alive. Moreover, they also revealed to me the knife had actually just missed my internal carotid artery and internal jugular vein by 1 millimeter, 1 by 26th of an inch. They said had they been severed, there would have been practically no chance of reaching the hospital alive or stopping the bleeding. When either of these essential vascular structures, which directly connect the heart and the brain, are breached, it is almost instant death. I looked down and saw the deep cuts on my right hand. Krishna had placed my hand over my neck, even though I didn't know what was happening. It may have been the hand that reduced the penetration of the knife just enough to avoid cutting these critically essential structures. It was actually the hand of Krishna that had saved me. After a week or so, with the doctor's permission, Japanese woman flew to Atlanta. Once in America, an ENT doctor lowered a special instrument down his throat and said that his vocal cords were functioning properly and the trachea was healing as it should. After a minor surgery on the external trachea to remove a granulation tissue, which was growing improperly from the trachea, the doctor confirmed that the loss of feeling on left side of his face would likely be permanent. This was because the main nerve was cut and doesn't usually grow back. I can't fully turn my neck yet, says Jayapataka Swami. And the doctor said I would never be able to turn my neck completely as that muscle had been cut and shortened. He said it would be all right to travel and to gradually take up preaching activities, but to take it slowly. He stressed that in general, I should learn to become lazy for a while and give myself 2 years to fully recover my general health before overexerting. He said that my own wound was not fully healed. My hemoglobin count was below normal, and in general, it would take time for the body to readjust after a severe wound and operation. He said the more I rested, the faster the body could rebuild and repair itself. He recommended 10 hours of sleep a night with a minimum of 8. After finishing all the tests, and the American doctor exclaimed, "It is really amazing that you are alive after such a wound." His disciple Haridwani Dasi remembers him arriving in the US shortly after the attack. When released from a hospital in Madrid, he went to London for assessment and with doctor's permission flew directly to Atlanta. From there, he came to New Talavana in South Mississippi and was here for 2 or 3 weeks. I remember him saying that because there was a window near his bed and his quarters were on the ground floor, he wasn't sleeping so soundly at first. You can imagine what a harrowing experience it was. We cared for him as best we could. He's supposed to rest. It was fall, and I remember we got him some overalls and flannel shirt so he could go walking off the beaten path. We have an expert herbalist here, his godbrother, Vibhuja Dasa, and he would clean and dress the wound, apply herbal salve, and he had made with plants from New Talavana. Insult to injury. The injury healed, despite what was ultimately a minor setback. Jayapataka Swami went on with his service. In fact, increased his service, and amongst devotees at least, he became known as a virtual ISKCON juggernaut, an unstoppable force. As if his ordeal with his knifing was not enough, almost 20 years later, he would suffer a nearly fatal stroke, leaving him somewhat debilitated. But this only made him resolve even greater. Alila Vilasini Devidasi notes, steel is repeatedly burnt and made harder and harder. Similarly, the devotee that goes through so many obstacles becomes stronger and stronger. Which army is stronger? Peacetime army or a wartime army? Peacetime army we simply drink and sit around and don't have much to do. But in wartime, everyone is a hero. No obstacles means no heroes. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So Prabhu, next will be Amalarjan Prabhu. Then
Hare
Vimla
Krishna,
Mataji.
Prabhuji.
Very good.
Dandavat pranams to all the assembled devotees. I know it's what an experience Guru Maharaj has gone through. It's really, my hair stands straight, and despite all these odds, Guru Maharaj has emerged greater and greater. We are so fortunate to be his disciples. Unstoppable, chapter number 13. On October 23rd, 2008, in Mumbai, Jayapataka Swami suffered a stroke in his sleep. His servant arrived to awaken him in the morning as per usual, but Maharaja couldn't raise his body from bed. More, he was found calling for help, though he couldn't actually articulate the words. Devotees thus rushed him to the Hinduja hospital, suspecting that their beloved Guru may have endured a heart attack. Upon being admitted into the ICU, however, attending physicians eventually diagnosed a brain hemorrhage. Regarding the events leading up to the stroke, Madhava Kanti Dasa, who was serving at the time as Jayapataka Swami's assistant, has this to say. In 2008, His Holiness Jayapataka Swami Guru Maharaja was supposed to come to Mumbai to attend midterm GBC meetings. He had been in South America, so Guru Maharaj traveled all the way to Mumbai via USA, London, Bahrain. Maharaja came to Mumbai airport on the 16th October. From airport, Guru Maharaja went directly to Chaupati without any rest, even though he took a night flight from Bahrain. And as soon as he reached Chaupati temple, he attended the meeting, and after attending, took some light lunch and afternoon nap. In the evening, after the session that day, he came to Juhu, reaching there at 11:30 p.m. Next day morning, again Guru Maharaja woke up and drove to Chaupati temple to attend the GBC meeting. He had attended one before the hemorrhage as well. After the meeting again, in between, Guru Maharaja went to some disciples' house for a program. Even the evening after again attending the meeting, Guru Maharaja went to another disciple's house. On the way back to Juhu, another disciple's house, and then another disciple's house. He reached the Juhu temple at 1:10 a.m. and slept by 1:30 a.m. Madhava Kanti Dasa describes a non-stop work schedule which was common for Jayapataka Swami. The dutiful servant watched his Guru carefully from the week in October. No one suspected that it could lead to an unfortunate stroke that occurred on the 23rd. Madhava Kanti Dasa continues. So it was 22nd October 2008, after securing a visa for Jayapataka Swami, I reached the temple around 6:30 p.m. and in the room were Vasudeva Atmaja Prabhu, Guru Maharaj's personal cook, and also Himalavanya Prabhu, Guru Maharaja's secretary, preparing to sleep. Also there was Ishvara Prabhu from Europe, who also cooks food for Guru Maharaj. Then Guru Maharaj entered our room. He sat to start his dinner. He also had a very good discussion. Guru Maharaja finished dinner by 8. After taking dinner, I mentioned to him that for last few days, he had not been getting enough rest, waking up too early, not having sufficient sleep. So I requested Guru Maharaja to please sleep today. Anyway, he went to sleep at around 9:30. Then on 23rd morning, 3:45, Guru Maharaja's BlackBerry alarm started ringing. I immediately got up and went to turn on the light. At the same time, within 1 or 2 minutes, another devotee, Gokulapati Madhava, a devotee from Mumbai ISKCON temple, entered the room. He had a duplicate key, and so he opened the door. He came to wake us up just in case I overstepped. Guru Maharaja, I said, please wake up. It's 3:45. Please wake up. But Guru Maharaja just said, help, help. The later P at the end of the word was not pronounced properly. There was no P because his lips weren't touching. Again, Guru Maharaja said, help, help, help. I could see that something was seriously wrong. I rushed to the secretary and told him the whole thing. So we called the doctor immediately. I did not delay. Hospital and hemorrhage. The ambulance arrived within 10 minutes. Madhava Kanta Pundari Kaksha Govinda Brajahari, the temple president of ISKCON Juhu, and a few others accompanied Jayapataka Swami to the hospital. By the time they arrived, the devotees at the temple were apprised of Maharaja's serious condition. An announcement was made during the auspicious early morning hours of Mangalarti. Please pray for Guru Maharaja. The doctor in the emergency room saw Jayapataka Swami immediately. Upon first inspection, he surmised that Swami had suffered heart failure. They would need a administrator a battery of tests to know for sure. Madhava Kanta summarizes events at the hospital. Soon, Bhakti Purushottam Maharaj, Devaki Nandana Prabhu, Gopala Krishna Maharaj, Kavi Chandra Maharaj, and others arrived at the hospital. They were all very concerned. By 8 a.m., the main doctor came and conducted various tests, but Guru Maharaja was still unconscious. At 8:20, after the CT scan report, we were told that it was not a heart failure, but rather a blood clot in the brain, known as a hemorrhage. So it was not a heart failure, but a stroke. At 8:30, they brought Guru Maharaja out from the CT scan area into the ICU. The doctors then said to wait and watch. That's all we could do. Just pray, and whatever Krishna wants, that's what will happen. Surgery was not an option at that point of time. The clotting had taken place in a very dangerous area of the brain. So not knowing what will happen, I started crying. That moment was very, very difficult for me. We were in the hospital for the entire day. Then Brajahari Prabhu made an announcement that we would take shifts accommodating devotees who would stay in different times. We only had 2 shifts though, day shift and night shift. So the first night shift went to Hema Lavanya Prabhu, and then Mahavaraha Prabhu, Guru Maharaj secretary, would take over at midnight, coming in from Malaysia. It would alternate with these devotees and myself. After 4 days, at 5:30 a.m., Jayapataka Swami's left thumb started moving up and down, signs of life. The devotees were thrilled. The finger motion seemed to indicate that he wanted something. After a short time, the attending devotees ascertained that he wanted his clicker, Haribol, so he could I'm not able to beat.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Okay, Prabhu. So I'll Vimla Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Please,
Prabhuji.
Mataji. Yeah, probably maybe after some time you can read.
After 4 days?
Here. After 4 days.
After 4 days at 5:30 a.m., Jayapataka Swami's left thumb started moving up and down, signs of life. The devotees were thrilled. The finger motions seemed to indicate that he wanted something. After a short time, the attending devotees ascertained that he wanted his clicker so he could chant Hare Krishna in a regulated manner. Devotees either use beads or a mechanical device known as a clicker to keep track of their chanting. So once the devotees understood that he wanted the latter, they nervously looked to each other, hoping they could provide one in timely fashion. Unfortunately, no clicker was available. However, it was morning and numerous devotees were now coming to visit. And when Revati Ramana Prabhu was asked if he had a clicker, he affirmed that He did. Once told what it was for, and overcoming the shock that Jayapataka Swami was now somewhat conscious, Revati Ramana went inside the ICU area and placed the device in Japataka Swami's left hand. At that point, some might say miraculously, he started chanting and clicking softly, slowly, but he was doing it on his own. When the doctor arrived at 9 a.m., he was informed Swamiji is chanting. The doctor looked incredulous. No, he said, this is not possible. Upon inspecting the Swami's vital signs, which indicated that he was unconscious, the doctor was shocked to see the clicker on his hand, with numbers gradually going up, indicating that he was chanting. He immediately called in the neurosurgeon so he could corroborate what he saw, and they both admitted that they were witnessing the impossible. Madhavakanta and the other fortunate devotees who were present saw it too, and they videotaped it for posterity. Nonetheless, after a battery of tests, Dr. P.P. Ashok had concluded that the situation was still critical. The brain stem, which was the source of the Swami's stroke, contains all vital centers of function such as heart and brain activity, breathing, conscious awareness, and so on. And the area, as already stated, issues any kind of surgery. Despite miraculous signs of Krishna consciousness, then Japataka Swami was in a life and death situation. Srinathji N.D. Desai remembers the incident well. Basically, we learned from the doctor that Maharaja's chances of surviving were less than 1% because the clot was in the worst possible location, affecting his body and its ability to function. There was no option but to pray to Lord Narasimhadeva, which we were all doing very sincerely and with full devotion. I went back again to the resident doctor and asked her to phone up the number one doctor in this area, Dr. Ashok, who was a well-respected and senior-most brain specialist. I requested that the doctor come immediately. Fortunately, she had already contacted him because Sri Hinduja, the owner of the hospital, had called him from London. Apparently, our Gopalakrishna Maharaja knew him and had already made arrangements. Additional experts were also called in on an emergency basis, and steps were taken to keep Japataka Maharaja alive. We did not know if he would end up with a severely diminished capacity or if he would be able to function on any level. Despite his 1% survival chance, Japataka Maharaja was able to pull through the crucial first 3 days, 72 hours, and thereafter he was given the best treatment possible for such patients. He was transferred to Bhaktivedanta Hospital once his condition was no longer critical, but it was still very serious. And then, due to the intensive prayers of the devotees and the hard work of the doctors and nurses on constant call, he started showing signs of recovery miraculously. Still, it was too early to say whether he would be able to walk, talk, listen, remember, eat, and so on. To the great surprise of the brain specialists, some of the finest in Bombay and indeed in all of India, he responded to treatment at Bhaktivedanta Hospital. All experts said it was a remarkable recovery, unprecedented in the history and annals of medicine. He was gradually not only able to recollect in minute detail the scriptures and incidents of the past and present, but he was also showing signs of preaching enthusiasm, which was very good. He was so enthusiastic that there was a huge Pune gathering of more than 2,000 devotees known as Pune Yatra, and he wanted to go there in an ambulance all the way from Bhaktivedanta Hospital, which he did. Once there, he lectured for more than an hour about his involvement in Krishna consciousness and the mercy shown him by Srila Prabhupada. It was a true miracle of modern times, but the diagnosis, while still at Hinduja Hospital, was bleak. The brainstem hemorrhage was extremely serious, said the head physician, and if Maharaja had continued bleeding, death would have been inescapable. Krishna's grace, however, showered abundantly, and the bleeding stopped just in time. At a certain point, the doctors ordered a tracheostomy, that is, a surgical opening in Maharaja's windpipe, to make breathing easier. He was on a ventilator for 48 hours. Hare Krishna, journey to recovery.
Hare Krishna, thank you. Next, Hareshwari Mata.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes, ma'am, please.
As already stated, Jayapadaka Swami was eventually moved to Bhaktivedanta Hospital, where healing for him was slow but steady. According to diary entries of Sri Dr. Shiromani Devidasi, who was employed at Bhaktivedanta Hospital when Maharaja arrived there. There were two main treating doctors for Guru Maharaja Japadakaswami, Dr. P.P. Ashok, a neurologist, and Dr. Hedge, an intensivist ICU in charge. When Dr. Ashok would come on his rounds in the morning at around 9 a.m. and see Guru Maharaja every day, he would come out of the ICU and just shake his head and say that there was no change. Dr. Hedge would come on his rounds a little later and would also come out of the ICU and just say same. He would not speak much at all. However, on the 8th of November, Guru Maharaja came to consciousness. When Dr. Hedge went on his rounds at around noon, Guru Maharaja responded to his verbal commands where the doctor asked the patient to raise his limbs, both upper and lower. So when Dr. Hesde came out of the room, he said that Maharaja is surprisingly better today. He moved all of his four limbs. I don't know how he is better today. The next morning on the 9th of November, Dr. Ashok came on rounds and Guru Maharaja responded to his verbal commands as well. And when he realized that Guru Maharaja was going to pull through, he came out of the ICU and said, "This is a miracle. Your Krishna has done it." Therefore, the doctor kept coming and seeing Guru Maharaja on a more regular basis. On the 12th of November, Dr. Heste said that the next hurdle would be to wean Guru Maharaja off the ventilator. They tried weaning him on the 12th, but it did not work. So on the 13th of the November, Guru Maharaja was put back on full mode ventilatory support because his PCO2 had risen the previous night at 10:30 p.m. and Guru Maharaja became drowsy. On 13th November at 10:30 a.m., they reduced the ventilator mode again. Dr. Hedges said that they will continue weaning, and when Dr. Ashok came, he said there was nothing new to be said. On 14th November, Dr. Ashok said that Guru Maharaja had been alert that day and was doing well. However, he said he did not want to predict anything because as soon as he predicts, he said things go wrong. By November 15th, Dr. Ashok cautiously proclaimed that Jayapataka Swami had come a long way and that in another 3 to 4 days he could even be free of the ventilator. For good, the doctor further ventured that if the Swami were lucky, and he looks like he might be, he would pull through altogether. A couple days later, a chalkboard was brought in for Japadaka Swami. This would give him an opportunity to spell out what he would like to say. Since he was still unable to speak, with all the energy he could muster, he began to spell out HARIB. The Rasagopala Prabhu, who was at his side, completed the phrase Haribol. Japadaka Swami nodded. Yes, I was trying to spell Haribol. But what aspect of Haribol? Literally, it means chant the name of Hari, Krishna. However, devotees also use it as a simple greeting and especially when there is some spiritual victory. He was then asked if he wanted the devotees to chant Haribol and he nodded his head yes. This indicated that they should see his survival as spiritually significant and that they should be happy, which of course they were. He also wanted them to return to the other devotees at the temple and to say Haribol on his behalf. Finally, on November 20, at 10 a.m., Dr. Ashok informed the devotees that improvement was considered and that Jayapadaka Swami had been off the ventilator for 6 to 8 hours the previous day. On 19th, the Swami's mind, he said, was functioning normally and that given what he had gone through, this was completely unexpected. On that day, Jayapadaka Swami was able to briefly speak to Dr. Ashok asking, "Who are you?" The doctor answered, looking at him in amazement. Later, Dr. Ashok said that he never suspected the Swami would survive, much less be able to speak coherently. Dr. Ashok said that the power in Jayapadaka Swami's limb was better and he was getting stronger. He was squeezing Dr. Ashoka's hand much tighter which was a positive sign not only in terms of physical strength but all of the Swami's neurological progress given the stroke's effect on his brain. The goal now was to get him off the ventilator completely. On November 28th, a week later, the devotees were told that if one survives a spontaneous hemorrhage, as this particular kind of hemorrhage is called, they are usually paralyzed for life. However, the doctors had to admit that in this case, Maharaja seemed to be moving towards survival without a significant paralysis. Although there was some facial palsy as well as third and sixth nerve involvement, Maharaja's bodily functioning would likely be relatively normal. Reshna Prabhuji. By the
You can
beginning of
finish.
December, I will finish it there, Prabhuji.
Yeah, we finish with this paragraph.
Okay. By the beginning of December, they moved him out of ICU. This is because he was progressing nicely and they wanted to avoid him getting an infection, which would likely occur if he stayed there. In fact, on December 1st, he did get a minor infection, but he was soon moved. Healing was in process. Thank you, Braji Hare Krishna.
Thank you. So next will be Surar Chita Keshavi Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Preaching is the essence revisited. While Jayapataga Swami was in Bhaktivedanta Hospital, still in severely compromised condition, Radhanatha Maharaja telephoned him saying, "We are having a nice festival in Pune. It is called Pune Yatra. You might want to come." Sri Nadaji Prabhu referred to this event above, and the very fact that Jayapataga Swami attended, while practically incapacitated, is a testament to who he is and what he is capable of. Nearly 3,000 to 4,000 devotees were expected in Pune for the festivities, arriving from all parts of India. Although Jayapataga Swami could hardly move, he immediately sought his doctor's permission and began making plans to attend. Bhaktivedanta Hospital in Mumbai is a good 5-hour drive from Pune, and traveling would be arduous, especially for someone in his condition. Initially, the doctors were frightened. Would he survive? Is he ready to travel? No, not in his condition. Thus, they disparaged his plan, saying it was too risky. This saddened him, and he made his disappointment clear to them. Despite the mass of doctors disapproving, the head doctor gave his okay. His reasoning was sound. Addressing his colleagues, he said, "You see, you people are doctors, so you always like to stay in the hospital, and it is also your duty. But he is a preacher. Let him go out for preaching. That is what will make him happy. Let him go." Hearing this, a huge smile dominated Jayapadaga Swami's face. The doctor understood. Maharaja's attending disciples began to confer amongst themselves, outlining the logistics for taking someone in his condition to Pune. Dr. Madhavananda provided a hospital ambulance, and the devotees quickly replaced the ambulance cots with the special ICU bed that Maharaja had become accustomed to. Additionally, some 5 vehicles with standby doctors and assistants moved slowly with the ambulance to its destination. It should be highlighted that his stroke had occurred on October 23rd, 2008, and now he was on his way to Pune in the third week of January 2009. In other words, this was a mere 3 months after the stroke, which, according to most of his attending doctors, was an almost impossible achievement. After reaching the festival site in Pune, the devotees accompanying him were delighted to see Radhanatha Maharaja, Bhakticharu Maharaja, and many other disciples of Srila Prabhupada, along with thousands of other devotees and well-wishers, many of whom were specifically waiting for Jayapataga Swami's arrival. When he was lifted out of the ambulance, devotees as far as the eye could see were crying, chanting the holy name with exuberance. They were deeply touched that the Swami had come such a long distance when it was a chore for him to even move an inch. Jayapadaga Swami started crying as well, seeing all the love that surrounded him. This was Krishna consciousness, attending a blissful, meaningful festival in honor of Lord Krishna and exchanging loving emotions with devotees and well-wishers. Toward the end of Jayapataka Swami's stay at Bhaktivedanta Hospital, a similar pastime occurred. The temple president of Atlanta came to visit him and said, Maharaja, the Panihati festival will not go on without your presence. The Swami took the statement very seriously. The idea planted in his heart, and he could not forget it. Consequently, he very quickly told the doctors and the devotees around him, I must go to Atlanta for the Panihati festival. This was approximately 6 months after his massive brain hemorrhage. Since this would be his first overseas trip after having had the stroke, the devotees were naturally worried. They told him that it might not be the best move, and his doctors echoed those sentiments. But Jayapataka Swami knew what was best for him. Preaching made him feel vital. It gives life. As Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati had said, one who does not preach has no life. And as Prabhupada elaborated, preaching is the essence. Because those around him were disinclined to let him go, Jayapataka Swami felt lethargic. At that point, Achyutananda Prabhu checked his blood pressure and found that it was exceptionally high. Thinking that Maharaja might have another stroke, he immediately called the main doctors who were tending him. Achyutananda then narrated the entire incident to them, and they realized the importance of calming him down, thinking that this might equalize his blood pressure. They told him, yes, you can go to Atlanta, but you will have to go from India to the Middle East, Europe, and then the USA. In other words, take short haul flight and not a long one. This will be doable in your conditions. Elated, Maharaja immediately started to make plans. Achyutananda Prabhu dutifully checked his blood pressure at that point. It was normal. The bottom line is that spreading Krishna consciousness means everything to him. And when he is given facility to do that, he thrives. He and his followers thus flew to Atlanta to attend the festival. And once again, dry eyes were few and far between. He does not like to miss festivals, especially those that he started or where a preponderance of his disciples are likely to attend, and that's a standard he keeps up to this day. Once in Atlanta, treatment continued in America. Madhava Kanda remembers, we tried all the treatments in India, and then he went to USA in the year of 2009 to try out some special treatments over there. As the therapy center, they told Guru Maharaja that he had to do 6 hours exercise and the therapy every single day. So imagine 6 hours a day of therapies. Even normal people are tired after an hour of workout. Guru Maharaja, who is such a busy person and one of the most prominent figures in ISKCON, to spend 6 hours is not a joke. What to do? He was already there. So in order to see some result, he had follow what the doctor said. Every day he would wake up at 5 a.m., take his shower, go to the temple to take darshana, and got into the car to go to the therapy center, which is an hour drive. Every day from 9 a.m. until 3 p.m., he was exercising, leaving the therapy center at 3 p.m. He would go for some other therapies like eye therapy, speech therapy, and other alternative therapies. He thought, how I am going to chant and do all my other sadhana if I engage 6 hours in exercise. So he came out with an idea of chanting all the time, the whole day. Besides chanting with clickers, he also started chanting while he was doing his exercise. For example, he did cycling for 1 hour each day. So for every 2 pedal strokes, he chanted one mantra, and for every step he took, he chanted a mantra. These days, when someone helps him while having his food, Guru Maharaja chants the Mahamantra once for every mouthful. And even while sitting in the washroom, he chants counting on his fingers. You may not believe it, but even while sleeping, he chants. If you want to, if you want, you can come and do the night shift with us. Even while sleeping, his counter will be next to him. The moment he is awake a little bit, he grabs the clicker and starts chanting, sometimes from 3 a.m. until 5 a.m. So, like this, throughout the day, he chants with every step while honoring prasada with fingers with clickers during exercises. He completes his round and also chant numerous extra rounds. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. Amararajan Prabhu, you would like to read? Continue, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you so much.
Please.
Pushing forward. As of the writing of this book, Jayapataka Swami is almost 70, roughly the same age that Prabhupada was when he met on the fateful day in Canada, some half a century ago. Inspired by Prabhupada, he still travels the world to share Krishna consciousness with all who would, for all, with all who would listen, and to inspire his disciples and others as he was inspired. Nonetheless, the rigors of life, age, and trauma to the body have had their toll, and he is thus consistently in and out of hospital. This very fact, however, makes his endeavor even more glorious, for what would require negligible effort for most is a major undertaking for him, what the average devotee could do without even thinking about it, taking all that he has to give. This requires relentless determination and surrender, two qualities that are characteristic of higher echelon Vaishnavas. New challenges besiege him regularly, and he successfully battles them one by one, showing onlookers how one might notably fight to stay alive when one's service hangs in the balance. Recently, for example, there was a new challenge which required a liver and kidney transplant. He tells the story. I survived the stroke. When they found that I was attacked in Madrid hospital by a crazy person in 1989, they had given me a blood transfusion to make up for the lost blood, and that contained hepatitis C virus. They postulated that the virus was from there because when they did the generic workup of the virus, it was found to be an European strain. They only started checking for hepatitis C in the blood donors in 1992. Until the stroke happened, they didn't know that my liver had been attacked by the virus. That's when they found out. In 2014, they gave me a drug regimen that had been newly discovered and that killed the hepatitis C virus. But the virus had been slowly destroying my liver since the year 1989. So the damage to the liver had already been done. It was kind of like a silent killer. Now they say that according to the allopathic school, the only treatment is a liver transplant. Due to the extreme liver damage, my kidneys have also started failing, and I now require a simultaneous liver and kidney transplant. Originally, I was told that in 3 to 5 years, I would expect to require transplant, but now the doctors gauged that I would need a transplant within 3 to 5 months. So then I went to various transplant specialists to see who would do it. 2 surgeons in India are very renowned. One refused me, saying I was high risk, having many other complications. But the other surgeon had me go through all the tests and had agreed to do the operation. He is the best in India, and he still goes every 2 months to England to perform transplants there. He had done over 4,000 transplants. I am waiting for a cadaver because the surgeon wants that I receive a whole liver. A living donor can only give 60% of his or her liver, although the liver does grow back in both the donor and recipient. In India, they have passed a law that only blood relatives can donate an organ, but that can be overridden by certain procedure. Except for Delhi, none of the states accept that procedure because they are afraid of getting sued. My blood type is B positive, and I am number one on priority list for getting the organs for a cadaver, but nobody knows when the cadaver will show up at the hospital. So things are going down. Before, my kidney could handle the load, but now they can't. Since about 10 days, they have put me on dialysis. So one by one, my organs are collapsing. If I get B positive cadaver with good organs, then I may leave the critical situation and be normalized. I am depending fully on Srila Prabhupada and Lord Krishna. I would like to see the TOVP completed and the TOVP exhibits manifested. Finish the Sri Krishna Chaitanya book, Prabhupada's memories. Haven't though of the name yet. Help with Mayapur master plan. Procure sitting places at the holy places on the Navadipa Parikrama. Continue my normal duties. Train younger devotees to take my responsibilities where possible, etc. But Krishna is independent, and whatever he wants, he will do. Of course, Prabhupada said that prayers make a lot of difference. So I appreciate devotees' prayers. That was written in June 2018. As of late August, Jayapataka Swami emerged from the operating room at the hospital in Chennai, South India. His liver and kidney transplants were successfully executed. He was then shifted to the ICU while his medical team waits to see how his body accepts the new organs, a critical phase in such operations and carefully watched by attending physicians. Once again, his ordeal begins out of the best in devotees worldwide as they perform numerous devotional activities on his behalf. According to jayapatakaswami.com, worldwide offerings including 16,401 Narasimha Kavachas, 117,957 Tulsi Parikrama participants, 207,070 extra rounds of Mahamantra chanted, 6,120 street Harinama participants, 46,168 ghee lamps offered, and 11,347 books distributed. And these were just the activities that were reported. Presumably, there were and are many more transpiring on a daily basis. We conclude with an inspiring story, profound but not uncommon in the life of Jayapataka Swami, wherein we see his spiritual determination and the devotional effect he has on people. Arjuna Bhattacharya, a newcomer to Krishna consciousness, reflects on Jayapataka Swami's spiritual potency even before his stroke. It was the year 2009. I just started associating with ISKCON Calcutta a year earlier. I never before had a chance to witness the glorious Calcutta Ratha Yatra. That year, I decided to go. The celebration was about to start with Park Circus. I went there a little early without knowing that it would take long time before the procession starts. Slowly, the crowd started getting bigger and bigger, and soon I was in the middle of an ocean of known and unknown faces. My excitement was also increasing. The deities of Lord Jagannatha, Baladeva, Subhadramai slowly came, and we were happily situated on their respective chariots. I saw the biggest crowd was in front of Lord Jagannatha. So I decided to remain there, thinking I would be close to the most exciting aspects of the festival. Suddenly, there was a wave in the crowd. I could feel that something was going on right in front of the chariot. Devotees were shouting, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Bengali ladies were making the uludhvani, and the atmosphere was electrifying. The person The person making announcements from the chariot was visibly moved and excited. Since it was all new to me, I really wanted to see what was going on. So I pushed through the crowd and moved ahead. I imagined that perhaps I could see some celebrities or ministers, but I thought someone was sitting on the wheelchair looking at Lord Jagannatha reverentially. People were standing all around him, literally crying in ecstasy. I had no clue who that person was, but seeing the situation, I got goosebumps. He couldn't walk, couldn't speak, had little control over his body. I was almost directly behind him. They those days, there used to be a wooden ladder in front of the chariot for the Sevites to climb up and down from the procession. I noted that people around him were pushing the wheelchair close to the ladder, and then at least 5 to 6 people were struggling intensely to lift him from the chair, helping him climb those impossibly narrow steps up to the Lord Jagannatha. My mind was asking only one question: why? Why all this attention on this one person? Why are they making him go through so much trouble just to push him up on the chariot to be with the Lord Jagannatha? He would be lying on in the bed and resting, I thought. My mind was besieged by these thoughts. The endeavor to get him up on the cart was immense. He had no real control over his body. He couldn't even make one step on his own. His structure was huge and the path was very difficult just to reach Lord Jagannatha. Suddenly, I got my answer. The person whom they were pushing was actually himself determined to go to Lord Jagannatha intensely. He was determined to stand in front of the Lord and offer aarti and prayers just like he had done every year before. He was determined to let the crowd see him so that they would know he was alive. That he had survived his physical ordeal and that he's doing okay. He turned around. For the first time, I saw his face, mouth open, one eye open, and had obviously been through a great deal. One person started crying besides me and started speaking very loudly in Bengali. This is all your Leela. My hair stood one end. Soon the crowd went silent. Somebody put a microphone in front of the seemingly debilitated person, encouraging him to speak. He was His Holiness Jayapataka Swami. That was the first major public appearance after his attack, and people came from all over to see him. He started with Prabhupada's Pranama mantra and then Panchatattva mantra and started singing Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. The crowd clapped and joined. He glorified Srila Prabhupada and glorified the holy name slowly with great effort. Srila Prabhupada had instructed him to make Calcutta Ratha Yatra big, huge, so he never missed any Ratha Yatra himself. And with that determination, he came there despite major health issues, just to please his spiritual master. That was his determination. I felt fears on my own cheek too. I felt I should take his blessings. Soon after that, I saw people again with great difficulty brought him down off the cart. I was holding my breath. Any moment, anything could have happened, but it was Lord Jagannatha's chariot. Nothing negative can happen when the Lord protects. Devotees brought him back to his wheelchair, quickly wheeling him away. Somehow, I managed to not let him out of my sight. I was standing nearby, watching and thinking, oh Krishna, how can you give someone so dear so much suffering? But this person seemed genuinely happy in bliss. And so everyone around him, Srila Jayapataka Swami Maharaja ki Jai, may his love and dedication inspire people generation after generation. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
So every word, every letter, every word, every sentence is so inspiring. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you. Kanaya?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Can I start?
Yes, you can read. Yes, please.
Afterward, Safari of the Soul Unstoppable. As of 2018, Jayapataka Swami has tens of thousands of disciples, mainly in India and Bangladesh, but also worldwide. While ISKCON has numerous gurus, it can be argued with that his contribution in particular has been to serve as a conduit to the disciplic succession. He is an official initiating link with Srila Prabhupada, and the larger tradition ISKCON's other initiating gurus do make the same, of course, but not in such large numbers, especially in the subcontinent, which is the original home of Gaudiya Vaishnavism. He takes people to the land of Krishna consciousness. His entire life, as we have tried to show, has been a virtual spiritual safari involving the transcendental homeland. A safari is an expedition usually for hunting or exploration. It is commonly identified with Africa, and it conjures images of adventures seeking forgotten lands and uncovering hidden treasures. Jayapataka Swami has accomplished all of this, if in a far more spiritual way than one finds on most safaris. As a youth, he explored the hidden recesses of his own consciousness, hunting for an identity long forgotten. The nature of the soul. Relocating to India early in his search, he discovered the all but hidden paradise of Mayapur and the treasure of the holy name. By Prabhupada's grace, he fully embraced these gems and shared them with everyone he could. As of writing of this book, he continues to do so. Interestingly, one of his contributions to Srila Prabhupada's movement has been what he calls a spiritual safari. Haridwani Devi Dasi, one of his early disciples, tells us about this aspect of his missions. After the Mayapur Gaura Purnima festival in 1989, Srila Jayapataka Swami Guru Maharaj led a group of devotees to some of the holy places in Bengal and Bangladesh, where Lord Chaitanya and his associates had performed their pastimes 500 years earlier. They also preached and presented Krishna consciousness to the local people. Every year since then, the 3-week pilgrimage tour has continued, and as the number of participants increased to over 100, the tour became known as Safari. The safari was trekked all over the Indian subcontinent, from the Himalayas to Cape Comorin, from Bangladesh to Rishikesh. The safari devotees have had many amazing adventures with Guru Maharaj as captain. Guru Maharaja is never satisfied to go sightseeing or even just visit the holy places. Wherever safari wanders, preaching is the essence. There are always pandal programs with lectures, drama, kirtana, and book distribution. Harinamas participation in temple inaugurations, meeting of dignitaries, and more, with new highlights and ever fresh activities. It is also always such an amazing experience to get to have Guru Maharaja's association for those 3 weeks and really seeing him in action with all the responsibilities he has that require his time and attention on the tour. He would every day be asking devotees, do you need anything? Medicine, sunscreen, how is prasada? Like we are his own children. Of course, safari is always a team effort and much planning is required to pull it off. Arranging for transportation, prasada, places to stay, etc. The main organizer is a really special devotee named Marichi Dasa. Maharaja is assisted by many devotees, but his right hand is another amazing devotee, Sarva Shakti Devi Dasi. They are both completely dedicated to safari and have been there for there every year since the very beginning. Since the stroke, Guru Maharaj hasn't been able to participate as previously, but in recent years has still met up with the devotees for preaching programs. Along the way, safari always returns in time for Maharaj Vyasa Puja birth celebration in Mayapur. Safari's grand preaching, the programs along the way. Final is the performance of the safari song and dance at the Vyasa Puja celebration. Every year, a song is composed about the tour, put to dance and pantomime, and performed for the pleasure of their lordships, Srila Prabhupada, Guru Maharaj, and the devotees. Safaris are one of a kind experience. Anyone who has ever gone will attest to that. In other words, in establishing a safari for his disciples, Jayapataka Swami essentially helps those close to him engage in Krishna consciousness in a lively, educational, and uplifting way. They have fun as a spiritual family as he helps them learn about holy places and engage in the basic practices of Krishna consciousness. In a sense, to this spiritual safari is a reaction of his own life spiritual journey in which he grew into a Krishna conscious person by the grace of his spiritual master Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna Prabhuji, thank you.
Very well. Thank you, Anaya. Next, I think, Varadeshwari Mataji raised hand. She is available. Mataji is available.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. 1 minute, Mataji. I will just put the right page for you. Yes.
To live or not to live. One last point to consider, given the number of illness and physiological setbacks he has had to endure in later life. One may question his approach in regard to his bodily longevity. Why not just allow the body to perish? Why not take it as Krishna's desire and succumb to the will of the Lord? Why fight it? One answer, of course, would be his loving disciples. They want him to survive, both for personal reasons and because he can help the world at large in unprecedented ways. As the person who guides them in Krishna consciousness, he is irreplaceable. Even if, like Srila Prabhupada, he lives largely in his instructions. If the disciples put into practice all that he has taught them, they can still associate with him even after his demise. And in the most meaningful of ways, similarly, if they spread his teachings to everyone they meet, he can continue to serve the Guru's mission even in his physical absence. Another reason to battle for life, and the one that Jayapada Swami often articulates, is that fact that he made commitments to his spiritual master, such as developing Mayapur and seeing the TOPP through to completion. To this day, he passionately works diligently to make these services a reality, even in his current debilitated state. In fact, there are many reasons to hold into life, as there are to willingly accept death. But it is ultimately the Lord who decides whether we stay or live or leave. Jayapada Swami knows this full well. Interestingly, there are two versions of the Parikshit story as found in Vaishnava literature, and these diverse versions speak to our options as souls who must inevitably face to prospect of dying. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, also known as the Bhagavata Purana, which presents the better known version of the story, we read that King Parishit was the highly qualified grandson of Arjuna and inherited the throne upon his father's demise. As the story goes, King Parishit one day entered the hut of a sage named Samika Rishi. Seeing water to quench his thirst. Finding the sage in deep meditation, he bowed to him several times, hoping for some reaction. But there was no response. The Parishit became offended. Exasperated, he took a dead snake lying nearby and put it around the sage's neck. Later, the sage's son, Sringi, was appraised of the incident and cursed Parikshit to die within 7 days. At that time, said Sringi, a snake bird named Daksha would bite him, thereby administering leather poison. With this as a backdrop, the king bequeathed the throne to his son, Janamechaya, and went to the Ganges so fast and to otherwise prepare for death. The central question of the Bhagavatam, what is the duty of one who is about to die, comes from Parikshit inquiry to the sage Sukadeva Goswami, who was elected to speak among the many sages, then congregating for his consequential interaction. They sit in the holy river listening to discourse about Krishna, and after some preliminary details from about the Bhagavatam and spiritual life in general, the answer to the central question is announced 2.1 to 11. One must constantly chant the holy name of the Lord. And yet there is still the question of how to face the death. Yes, focusing on the Lord through chanting his names and hearing the Bhagavatam is a must. But should we also fight to stay alive or simply submit to the will of fate? Clearly, the Bhagavatam sets forth the later option. First and foremost, but it never claims that it is the only way. True Parikshit does not attempt to avert the curse, even through as a powerful devotee with mystical powers. He certainly could have, and with great success. Instead, he says, "O Brahmanas, please accept me as a completely surrendered soul, for I have already taken the lotus feet of the Lord into my heart, and let Dakshaga bite me at once. If it be so ordained, for my only desire is that you continue speaking about the glories of the Supreme Lord Vishnu." Srimad Bhagavatam 1.19.15. This is the version that most people know, but the Mahabharata and the Purana, also written by the Bhagavatam's author. Vyasadeva has a different story to tell, perhaps revealing how Parikshit reacts to the curse in another kalpa, world cycle. Whatever the case, this Mahabharata version tallies with the course of action taken by Jayapataka Goswami. In the epic, we find that the great king tries to circumvent his imminent death, engaging ministers and brahmanas and constructing an impenetrable palace just to avoid the fatal bite of the snake bird, who is soon to pursue him. Physicians, healing herbs, and ritual adepts are brought into his service in an attempt to avoid the inevitable. Mahabharata 1.5, 38 to 40. The idea of two distant reactions to death is again interesting in setting up a parading of devotees to follow. It appears to offer options. How is one to deal with the prospect of disease and mortality? One can certainly adopt the Bhagavatam version, simply prepare by hearing about the name, fame, form, and Leela of Krishna, and accept what the fates have in store for us. But most people won't. Rather, most will fight for life, taking every opportunity to sustain one's existence. After all, life is precious gift meant to be used in Krishna's service, and it should not be given up so easily. One should not judge devotees by the course by take. In my own lifetime, I have witnessed advanced devotees who adopted an approach like that of Parikshit in the Mahabharata. Indeed, even Srila Prabhupada engaged both allopathic and Ayurvedic physicians before leaving his body. As mentioned above, an overriding consideration for accomplished devotees in their service, they often seek to sustain their lives for others, to share devotion to Krishna with the world, world at large. In other words, advanced Vaishnavas may want to maintain their physical existence to render service, whereas materialistics just want to live a longer life for selfish ends. That is to say, there may be diverse reasons why a given soul would choose to lengthen his earthly sojourn. Additionally, it should be noted that in the end, both the Mahabharata version and that of Bhagavatam convey in the sense that Parikshit ultimately accept his fate in pursuance of divine service. After making numerous attempts to overrule to curse, he finally resigns himself. The sun is setting, and I have no more danger to fear from poison. Now let the hermit's words come true. Mahabharata 1.39-30. Thus, he allows himself to be killed. Even in the Mahabharata, then King Parikshit counsels himself to death as Dakshaha conceals himself in the guise of form of a worm hidden in a piece of fruit. According to plan, the worm moves into the snake bird, who bites kills him at the end of the allotted 7 days. In the end, as all devotees know, it is Krishna's will that reigns supreme.
Hari Bol.
Hare
Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna.
Hari bol, Hari
Thank you,
bol,
Prabhuji.
Hari bol.
Exactly 8 o'clock. Exactly 8 o'clock. We completed this. No, it was like, I think, 4 weeks we had.
4 weeks or 5 weeks, Prabhuji?
I think we started in the Eid holidays.
Eid holidays.
So
Then that means
basically
4
it
weeks.
is like 1, 2, 3, 4, Prabhu. 4.
4, huh? Okay.
Yeah, 4, I think. One time we cancelled also.
But,
Like,
but cancelled. Yeah, one day it was cancelled. First one.
4 weeks, I think.
4 weeks.
So exactly 8 o'clock we completed.
Jai.
So 1 month. So, they say there is a challenge. Like if somebody will read Srila Prabhupada's Leelamrita, they say that no, they cannot keep the book without tears in their eyes. That's a challenge. So definitely anybody reading, they will have tears in their eyes. Srila Prabhupada Leelamrita. So similarly, we can say whoever is reading this Milwaukee to Mayapur also, they will have that kind of tears of emotional balance, as we saw from Amararjan Prabhu also. So that's good sign that our heart is very soft. So that's what Krishna likes. So it's really very, very inspiring. And devotees 5-10 minutes if you want to give any realization of this book reading. 1 or 2 minutes if somebody wants to express. I think we can have that discussion. Anybody would like to share their experience?
Prabhuji, first of all, I would like to thank you and His Grace Manibhushan Prabhuji for organizing this book reading. Actually, what had happened when this book, when we came to know that this book was about to be released, I was only telling myself, oh, I'm not going to read it because I'm not going to have the time. I'm going to find some excuse and I'll be another fallen soul. And I felt very bad. Then what had happened when I got to know from you that we are going to have a reading session, I immediately grabbed, because first of all, it is very important to know about our spiritual master, and somebody has taken such a great effort to publish a 277-page book. And I thought, if I don't do this now, I will never do it in my life. So I really mustered a lot of energy and enthusiasm to hear the wonderful pages of our Guru Maharaj, and every page depicts different types of leelas and events that Guru Maharaj has to go through in his life, the kind of emotions, the challenges. But one thing, Prabhuji, that has come out very loud and clear, physical challenges will never deter somebody from that spiritual pursuit. So that is the lesson which that's a takeaway from this whole reading, the 4 weeks of reading and the 277 pages that we have gone through, Prabhuji. So our Guru,
I would like to interpret now. Sorry.
Yes, Prabhuji.
When you say like Guru Maharaj, normally when he gives some instruction, some kind of phone bell rings or something, he will tell, yes, confirmed.
Yes.
So when you said that physical debilities will never stop devotional service, did you hear a sound? It was like a BBC alert. There was a ring.
Okay.
So you can say it is confirmed.
Jai. So he's a great example. We have seen him a few times here, and I think he's always been energized, and he always wants to meet devotees, and he never wants to take rest. He always shows the enthusiasm, and there is so much to learn from our Guru Maharaj. And some of the devotees who have been with him and who have shared their feelings and who have really witnessed what Guru Maharaj has gone through in various stages of his life. It only goes to show that he's a very, very strong personality. In one of the in one of the events, I think it was Guru Maharaj's Vyasa Puja, I think 2 or 3 years ago, His Grace Revati Raman Prabhuji was glorifying Guru Maharaj, where he said, Guru Maharaj is like Bhishma Dev. Only if he wants to leave the material world, he will leave. So, so, so he has that kind of a blessing. It's and I think TOEP has been really close to his heart, till STEM TOEP is going to be completed, no way that nothing is going to happen to him. So he'll be very fit. He'll be jubilant. He'll be enthusiastic, and it is our responsibility to keep praying for him. I think we have to chant for him. That's the least that we can do in comparison with so many devotees who have dedicated their life for Guru Maharaj. So with those words, I would like to conclude, Prabhuji. Thank you once again. It's been really a journey. And when devotees are reading, it is like a movie reel that is really coming into our, I felt like that, Prabhuji. Like when they said Guru Maharaj is in the hospital bed, we are just imagining, oh, Guru Maharaj, how is he placed in the hospital bed? When Guru Maharaj is traveling to Atlanta, how he was traveling. Like that, it was like it was not a book reading, it was just beyond that. The life reel was just in front of us, which made it even more beautiful. Thanks to all the devotees who have with all their heart and mind, they have given this beautiful flavor in their own words by reading the beautiful pages of this beautiful book. So thank you very much, Prabhuji. Dandavat pranams to you and all the assembled Vaishnavas and Vaishnavas. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you very much for sharing your wonderful realization, Prabhu. Thank you. And also we could say that we have to thank the author, His Grace Satyaraj Prabhu. He's so wonderfully brought it live before our eyes. That is one thing. And second thing is our understanding on Guru Maharaj, we all know about Guru Maharaj, but in so detail, in depth, we are able to know, by which we will get more, our love and affection for him now increases more. When you understand a person better, the love also naturally increases, like when we try to understand a person. So definitely we are not understood him fully, but this book has helped us to understand more. That increases our love and affection for him. When the love and affection increases, then automatically our dedication towards him also will increase. So that also this book has helped us to, inspire and improve our dedication to him. So I feel that is also very, very wonderful. And Satyaraj Prabhu also is a very good, means he writes so many books like autobiographies, presents, very nicely. Hare Krishna. So thank you, Prabhu. And any other devotees would like to share? Okay.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Yes,
Chance to read. Yeah, I have not done not any book till now completely. So it was a wonderful this thing. I mean, to know about the Guru Maharaj more. And as Prabhuji told, this when you read and you get the information and all, we will more affected to Guru Maharaj, and this get to Guru Maharaj's mercy more. So I feel that reading through even two days, I think was not covered, but I think it is recorded already. So I
yes,
can.
Yes, it's in the YouTube, Prabhu.
Yeah, so I can hear it and by
what is in the YouTube, Prabhuji?
That part
no, this reading is actually put in YouTube live. So,
YouTube, yeah.
Okay.
So just
somebody is
listen
traveling, he can put an audio and he can hear.
and hear it. So it was a great opportunity. Thank you,
Yes.
Shomana. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prabhu. It was effort.
And thank you, Sri Kumar Prabhuji. Although you have physically moved away from Kuwait, you have been a great supporter. You have been so kind and being a part of us all the time.
All of you. Thank you very much. Even Manivasham Prabhuji, Shomana Prabhuji, everybody is active, and I'm very happy. I still think that I'm in Kuwait only, not in India.
We also think like that only, Prabhuji.
Thank you very much. And, to know about Guru Maharaj, this is something marvelous. I feel very grateful to all of you. Thank you, Prabhuji. The chance to read also. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Sri Kumar Prabhu. You're so sincere in attending, even though you are in India late night, you are attending. Thank you for your sincere dedication. And we also realize how fortunate we are to be under the shelter of Guru Maharaj. To have Mahatmanas to Mam Partha. Yeah, so we are very much fortunate to be under the shelter of Guru Maharaj, and we should fully utilize that opportunity in showing our sincerity. We pray at his lotus feet that we should be very, very sincere to him, not only in this life or any life to come. We should always be eternally indebted to him, and we cannot ever repay whatever he has done for us. Definitely, as Srila Prabhupada said, we can never repay to our Guru Maharaj, to spiritual master in any way. Okay, so whatever possible little service we can always offer to his lotus feet. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. So, any other devotees would like to say their realization? Asimananda Prabhu. And the Pranam Hare Krishna. Prabhu would like to share?
Vijit, what to share, Prabhu? Actually, when this book released, same like Amararjun Prabhuji was telling, I was thinking how to read, because normally I also same, start and then stop, start and stop. We'll never finish us. But because of this opportunity which you and Anibhushan Prabhuji which started, they actually given us an opportunity to complete within these 4 weeks time. And also about Guru Maharaj, to understand about him, like Amararjun Prabhuji and you told, it is very important to understand him more and more. Then we can realize that how he is involved deeply in the service of Srila Prabhupada. Because you don't have any other than serving the Srila Prabhupada and his instructions. And especially is, you want to complete that now TOEP. So much is involved in the service of, again, Srila Prabhupada, that where we can see from his, whatever his physical condition, he was not stopping. It is not stopping for him. Anything is not stopping. That is what we can see from this this last few incidents what we are reading. It's really, it's a heart touching, and that's only we have only our fortunate that we have such Guru Maharaj in our life, and
very true.
That he mercy is given to us. That is the only we know how to, we have to give back. I don't have any other things than to, very difficult to say. You want to serve him more and more, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Prabhu, for sharing your heartfelt realizations. We also agree with whatever you are saying. So thank you very much, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you all devotees for sincerely participating in this book reading session. Hopefully, maybe later after our vacation completes, we'll start maybe some other inspiring book, maybe 1 hour like this. We can have Friday because we are free. We should keep our batteries always charged by reading such, because reading the spiritual personalities book gives us very much inspiration, especially the Vaishnavas, because they said we cannot understand Krishna easily. Not possible. Krishna himself says, Manushyanam Sahasreshu. So only we can understand Krishna through his devotees. So when we read the devotees' life, then we can understand a glimpse about Krishna. So always devotees, this is important. As Prabhuji said, Amararjun Prabhu also said, maybe after a vacation, we will plan some other book, just 1 hour, 6 to 7 or 6:30 to 7:30. Because Fridays, I think we are available.
And, probably Prabhupada Leelamrita, we can, since you said Prabhupada Leelamrita, maybe we can start that, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhu, that is there, or we can go for even Bhakti Charas Maharaj, Ocean of Mercy is there, soft copy is there. Because whatever we need, I think we need a soft copy so that easily we can share it.
Yes.
Ocean of Mercy is there, I think the soft copy. We can read, and whatever soft copy is available. There is
Prabhupada Leelamrita is not there in this, in Vedabase it is there, it seems, Prabhuji.
Okay.
It is there, Prabhu. It is there.
Let us check that also, Prabhu. And Guru Maharaj books, Vaishnava, that also I think important book to read. Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah, that is good book, Prabhu. I read few pages like what you're telling. Then
We will
it
see
is-
this,
yeah.
that book also, I think, very important because we think we are Vaishnavas. We should know actually. No,
Yes.
we are. So really, who is a Vaishnava, we should understand. So
Yeah.
that book also, I think, important. So we will plan, Prabhu, after our vacation. This we will plan maybe one book. We'll have 1 hour session. Be on the Fridays.
Yes, Prabhuji, we need to start. That's what my realization again, that we were reading that, during Corona, we were able to read a few books. You remembering that?
Yeah. We were able to complete teachings of Queen Kunti, teachings of Lord
Many
Kapila.
books.
Like
Yeah.
they say, small drops make a big this one. No?
Yes.
So we read at least 10 pages. No, so now you see the 280 pages. Even for me, I also agree. If I was alone, I would not read this.
Yes,
Like,
yes.
it's sometimes maybe you'll read 5-10 pages, maybe randomly some pages, but not completely. So like that, we can come and assemble, and I think that this Fridays we can utilize for inspiring us in Krishna consciousness. So we will select some good books, inspiring books, whatever. And then and Guru Maharaj books we should read, because otherwise there is no chance to read Guru Maharaj books. We are saying his disciple, and if somebody asks how many books you read his book, we say no, I have not read any books. Not good to tell, we have to read some books. So maybe with that Vaishnava K we can start at least first book. We can start Guru Maharaj book. Then we can see next any other books are coming. So once devotees are back from vacation from September 1st week, because many people come at August, mid of August. So I think September 1st week should be ideal to start this book reading for this one online. Okay, Prabhu.
Okay, Prabhuji. Thank you so much for inspiring us always.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you, Asmananda Krishna Prabhu, and thank you all devotees, Prabhuji and Mataji, for participating. Let us offer our humble obeisances. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha
Kripa sindhu bheva cha patitanam pavanebhyo